the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Abbas Tajuddin, yesterday had stepped down a motion calling for the suspension of the cybersecurity levy. It sparked a widespread dissatisfaction across the board. Now, during Wednesday's plenary session, Manu Soro, who's a lawmaker from Bauchi State, presented the motion expressing concerns that the levy's introduction was ill-timed given the prevailing economic conditions in Nigeria. But the Speaker of the House, Abbas Tajuddin, went ahead and stepped down that particular motion. You wonder why? Because the lawmakers were elected to represent the views of the people. We'll be checking that out in a moment. A factional speaker, in a turn of events, looking at the crisis rocking Rivers State, a factional speaker, Victor Oko Jumbo, representing Boni constituency, has emerged in the Rivers Assembly as a speaker of the Rivers Assembly in a new twist to the crisis rocking the state. He was elected by lawmakers who are loyal to Governor Siminalayi Fubara. Remember, yesterday we talked about the fact that Governor Siminalayi had said that the lawmakers who were opposing him, those loyal to Mr. Wike, he said that they are unconstitutional, they are not recognized as lawmakers, and they, in a twist, said that they will be there and they'll serve their full term, regardless of what the governor has said. And now we're seeing a factional speaker emerging, elected by the lawmakers who are loyal to Governor Siminalayi Fubara. We'll check that out in a bit. The EFCC will today arraign the former Minister of Aviation, Hadi Sirika, his daughter Fatima, and two other suspects in court. They're facing charges over alleged 2.7 billion naira contract fraud uncovered in the aviation ministry under Hadi Sirika. Remember, his brother has also been fingered in fraud that have been connected to the Ministry of Aviation as well. We'll find out details in a bit. Now, in a turn of events in the Okuama community in Ugeli South LGA of Delta State, the Nigerian Army has withdrawn its officials from the Okuama community. According to a statement by the Governor, Sheriff of Beverly, the withdrawal was confirmed during a phone conversation with the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Torid Lagbaja, on Monday, May 6th. Well, that is what is said at the moment. Now, in Rivers State, the Rivers State chapter of the Association of Local Government Areas of Nigeria has said it is ready to back the call for the impeachment of Governor Siminalayi Fubara. The local government chairman also accused Fubara of embezzling funds intended for the state's 23 local government areas. Really, really interesting what is playing out in Rivers State. And just like what Mr. Larry said yesterday, if you aren't following our conversations, right, you should check out our YouTube. It is at Voice of the People Abuja. We're live at the moment on YouTube, Voice of the People Abuja. Go ahead and check out some of our trending conversations from yesterday and the days before. We're talking about a lot of issues that the current country is currently facing. And you'll also notice that we are also talking about the cybersecurity levy. This is because it's affecting Nigerians as well, because we're hearing news about the fact that VAT will soon be increased. We'll get into the details in just a moment. But before we do all that, let's check out who said what. We're going on social media to find out who said what during different conversations, trending stories all over the country yesterday. Now, in a surprising turn of events, we're seeing more conversations concerning the Lagos-Calabar Highway. And according to Bishop Amakiri, the chairman of the YPP, the Young Progressives Party, he's talked about the fact that the Lagos-Calabar Highway is not a project that will end with an end in sight, even in 8 years.
We'll see the end of it within 8 years. Let's assume even if President Tinubu is going to get another year, but which I don't know, it's God that gives that power. In the first 4 years, can they even finish this project? Is it a realistic project? Forget about what you see on the paper. I'm telling you what we need now as a people.
Yeah, but you can see that the construction is taking place as we speak. And if you remember, I mean, I don't know if you recall this, many people argued the same way against the third mainland bridge in Lagos when it was arguing that it was a waste, an avenue for corruption, and that it wasn't needed given that you already had two bridges connecting Lagos, I think Echo Bridge and another bridge or whatever, connecting Lagos to the mainland. But nobody can argue about how vital,
Charles,
the third mainland bridge is today to the economy of Lagos.
I maintain my stand, we maintain our stand as a party, that this project is not the immediate priority that Nigerians need.
Well, I mean,
this project is, for me and for us, we see it as an avenue of trying to, you know, maybe pacify some people.
How do you mean pacify some? You don't pacify some people by spending 15.
No, when you are giving project, when you are giving,
that's a rather big way to.
When people are already attacking the government, that the manner in which this project was awarded did not go through the due process.
I agree with you.
So if I use the word pacify some people, some of them might be some politicians who are to the mercy of the president or the government. Well, and don't forget, we play more of politics in this country than governance. And why did I say so? A situation where any government comes in, particularly the two governments that we have experienced over the years, PDP and APC, under those, what they do, they continue to do, is to see how they can bring their people. What they call it, they say, is political empowerment. They empower them because the next thing they think about is the next election. They don't think about the next generation. They think about the next election. And that is the point I'm coming from, that these are not projects that actually conforms with the reality that we are faced with at the moment. The reality that many of our people have left their farmlands, they can't go back. The reality that we need security. If you can go into even recruitment of militaries and police in this country, we know what we saw. Go into Ajakuta, even this Ajakuta still, and see how you can revive it and bring it into limelight.
All right. Some people argued that Mr. David Umahi said Nigeria needs around 15 trillion to 18 trillion to fix all the roads, in Nigeria, and yet he embarked on one single project that will cost over 20 trillion naira in a haste. Where are we going to see the money to conclude the ones that we have been on for so many years? I mean, this is a debate that will consistently be in the news space at the moment, at least until we see something being done about this. Now, there's a constitutional crisis brewing in Rivers State. This is according to Somna Sambo. He's a politics editor, and he's talking about the president, Bola Tinubu, should have approached the lawmakers' issues in Rivers State as president, but he approached it as the leader of the APC. So let's hear what he had to say about this.
Into a constitutional position of the law should be speaking out at this point in time, because we're getting into a constitutional crisis in Rivers State, and it's very clear for both parties that something is being done in the wrong here. And let's begin with the lawmakers. The decision of the lawmakers to actually defect from the PDP to the APC is the one that has actually brought the legitimacy crisis that they are facing now. And that's why the governor is insisting that, I mean, in the eyes of the law, they are not state-elected lawmakers. Because, I mean, these lawmakers themselves actually said that they had defected from the PDP to the APC. Now, was there a legitimate way of defecting? Because, I mean, if you want to defect, there must be a particular reason. And what we've had politically in the past is that there must be a division at the national level of your political party, at the National Working Committee levels and all of that. So there's been a dispute as to if their defection to the APC was actually legitimate or not. Now, having gone towards that, they've been sitting over time, and they passed this Public Procurement Act in the state. And the governor refused to sign. And just when he received, a delegation from Bayelsa State yesterday, which comprised of, former top governors, former top leaders in the state, and all of that, you would have seen that there was that attempt for him to actually stamp his, authority, because there's a sort of constitutional crisis that's brewing up. Because if the governor had assented actually to that bill, someone could actually go out there and say that it's illegal.
So it looks like a booby trap.
Yeah, like a booby trap for him. And then also, don't forget that some time ago, there was an allegation as to the issues of the budget that was passed. They said that whatever budget that is implementing right now is illegal. So if they do not recognize its authority to implement the budget that was passed by Edison, who was the former speaker, who is now his own chief of staff, they refused to recognize the speakership of that of Edison. But now they are expecting him to recognize their own leadership. Now, don't forget that budget, although, the circumstances surrounding it too is also controversial, because there were just 2 persons who sat down and passed it, while these 27 members said that they were no longer going with the governor. Now, that budget has been implemented.
But again, sorry, Somna, I hope you don't lose your train of thought.
Yes.
What do you expect if, by the law, 27 who left were, according to the Constitution, no longer members?
Yeah.
And even if you had 2 people, doesn't that show that there is some kind of constitutional legitimacy on that budget?
Yeah, that's why I said it's for both parties. But what the law recognizes is who are those who are the constituted authority at a particular point in time. Even if they are 2 members of the National Assembly, as long as their legitimacy is not in question, whatever they do at that point in time will be deemed legitimate. So that's what, there are several laws and several instances where we've had all of this. So the major challenge is that the political decisions that were taken by President Bola Tinubu, and that's where we actually have problem. Because when President Tinubu got into this issue, he should have approached it as a statesman, as a president of the country. But instead, he approached it as the leader of the All Progressives Congress in trying to find a solution between aggrieved members of the PDP and aggrieved members of those who claim were in PDP but have now moved on to the APC. President Tinubu was so eager to want to accept these 27 lawmakers into the APC so that the APC will make the majority in the Rivers State House of Assembly to his party's advantage, that he didn't look at it from the angle of a statesman as a president, and that's why we are where we are now. And the governor Fubara is saying that whatever agreement that they I think those who understand.
All right, that is the voice of Somna Sambo, who is a politics editor, talking about the issue, the constitutional issue, crisis brewing in the state. You see the booby traps. You hear about it, especially looking at the budget that was passed in Rivers State, the number of people who ported onto the other side from PDP to the APC, and all of that. So we'll check that out in a bit with Mr. Rufai. We'll have that conversation with him in just a moment. But before we do that, let's check out this particular statement by the National Coordinator, South-South Leadership Forum, ANAB's Sirika, who is talking about the River State lawmakers are imposters, but by virtue of the Constitution, there's nothing honorable in the character of the Rivers lawmakers. Well, let's hear exactly what he had to say about this.
The people who call themselves members of the House of Assembly as honorable, they are not honorable enough. The honorable person is somebody who has a word, who stands by his word. When you are an honorable member, you will be seen to be honorable. But in this instance, we are not seeing that in them. 2, if you are a lawmaker, you must also obey law. If you cannot obey law and you are a lawmaker, who will obey your law? So we see them as impostors because by virtue of Section 109F, they are no longer members of the House of Assembly. And that is why the elders of River State, including myself, I led about 9 others to the court. Unfortunately, the chief judge took the case from the judge that it was assigned to and gave it to the assistant judge of the former governor, who did not even listen to us, who did not go into the matter. We went there for substitution. After keeping us for more than 1 hour, came up with a judgment. And we are in court of appeal. The matter has been reserved for judgment. We are saying that the whole of the 8-point directives of Mr. President is illegal. We are saying the members of the House of Assembly are no longer, those 27 are no longer members of the House of Assembly. So this is before the court. And by virtue of the rule of law, if a case is before a court, status quo remains. Everybody will wait for the judges to take a decision. I expected the House of Assembly members who are making laws to wait for the judiciary to interpret the law. That they have not done. They went ahead to be reeling out laws that they could not do when Wike was a governor. Laws that they amended to suit Wike's administration. Now they want to change it because they felt same is not in the same book with them, or same is not taking orders from their master. This is not fair. The Rivers people are not happy with what this House of Assembly people are doing, but because we are in court, let them wait and see when the court pronouncement is made, when the court take a decision. Then Rivers people will know what to do with them. But we are saying, well, you cannot put something on nothing. You cannot put legality on illegality. The whole process is illegal. They are no longer members of the House of Assembly by virtue of Section 109, and their seat has been declared vacant, and the Court of Competent Jurisdiction has accepted that verdict. I don't know what they are still waiting for. And they did not appeal. They ran to Mr. President, gave him a script for him to read for them. And we are saying, the Rivers people are saying, this script is illegal because Mr. President do not have powers under constitutional democracy, particularly in the 1999 Constitution, to direct a governor who was elected the same way he was elected. Mr. President do not have power to overrule a judgment from a court of competent jurisdiction.
All right. The reason why we're having this debate as to why some of these members of the House of Rivers State Assembly, they are unconstitutional is because according to the Constitution provided in Section 68 subsection 1G is that once a lawmaker defects to another political party, the lawmaker ceases to be a member of the House of Reps or Senate, as the case may be. This section, as it were, is not absolute, considering a lot of things, which appears to be a safe haven for a lot of these politicians and lawmakers as well. So we'll check all that out in a bit with Mr. Rufai Oseni. So something really interesting is happening in Togo at the moment. Under Togo's new constitution, the president will not be elected by popular votes. The parliament will select the head of state. Really, really interesting turn of events. Let's find out what was done. The Togo's president approved a new constitution abolishing presidential elections. It's a move condemned by critics as a ploy to prolong his family's decades-long reign. Civil society organizations within the West African nation have called for protests in response to this. Under the new constitution, the president will no longer be elected by popular vote. Instead, the parliament will select the head of state. So this development follows a recent announcement by the Election Commission that President Faure Gnassingbe's ruling party secured a majority in parliament. Talk about some people have said it's abuse of power, but let's find out what Mr. Rufai thinks in just a moment. Stay tuned. Thank you for staying tuned. This is still the front page review right here on VOP 96.1 FM. Remember, we're live on YouTube at Voice of the People Abuja. Voice of the People Abuja. Good morning to you, Mr. Rufai, Oseni, and welcome to the show this morning.
Morning, Jesse. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you so much. Well, Mr. Rufai, in a surprising turn of events, we're seeing a factional speaker of the House of Representatives in Rivers State. We're looking at what the Constitution provides for and, why exactly we're seeing this constitutional crisis brewing in Rivers State.
I think the local will have to interpret what's going on in Rivers because I don't know what's going on myself. But one thing is certain.
Hello.
And all of this drama playing out, we all know has its own political dimension. So obviously, if this man cannot reach an agreement, then there's going to be a fight to finish. I probably think the other faction will now go ahead and see if they can impeach the governor. So we're going to have multiple factions in there. And let's see how that plays out. But it's just sad for democracy. It's sad for democracy.
All right. Let's move on to another story here. In Kaduna State, Kaduna is set to relocate 359 schools over the issue of banditry and kidnapping. The governor, Senator Obasani, on Wednesday, he lamented the drop in enrollment of pupils into schools across the state. So he's expressed concern over the development, and it's been linked obviously to insecurity, kidnapping, banditry, and other related crimes in the state. If students can no longer go to school peacefully, what exactly is the hope of development in a particular state or nation?
It's a failure of the state, pure and simple, where people can't go to school again, they can't have their livelihoods, now they are relocating them. They are supposed to provide security for those people so that they can stay anywhere and go to their school. But I mean, it's a big failure of the state. And this is why we keep saying the Nigerian state keeps failing every time. And it looks as though, to me, that now they have the full powers of the bandits to be able to rub shoulder with the state. That's the sad reality of our political dynamics. Very sad.
All right. As security chiefs, I mean, we haven't seen the governors do much when it comes to security, right? But I mean, this is a good thing, trying to merge, some schools with other schools in order to ensure that they are safe, they can provide for their security and all of that. But in terms of being the chief security officers of their state, what else can the governors do? Because it seems as though they are lacking ideas, right? What else can the governors do?
Obviously, you see, the way the security architecture goes, as we speak today, what they can pretty much do is in the area of intelligence. So we still need a strong federal force for them. They should go and remove those vigilantes that they used to have back in the days. Probably they should do a lot of intelligence work as regards that, the proper reconnaissance. And probably they should also do a lot of work at economic empowerment so that we don't have a fertile ground for all these criminals to be able to breed in the first place. So they're a multi-pronged approach. But it still has to come down from the federal government, and see what will happen there. Because it's a cultural aspect of this community that have been taken away. So it's now culturally possible for you to be a criminal and you be praised in society. That's the sad reality. So those are the things we must now learn to change.
All right. Talking about criminality, I mean, we're following the Binance story where the chief executive officer, the CEO, Richard Teng, accused unidentified individuals in Nigeria of acting on behalf of officials to demand $150 million in cryptocurrency to resolve the tax evasion and money laundering case against the company and its officials. Even though Idris said he's dismissed those claims. But a lot of Nigerians are saying that this allegation is not far-fetched because we see it play out here in Nigeria almost all the time.
I don't think those claims should be dismissed. I think they should be investigated. And this is how the cookie crumbles in Nigeria. At first, it was a case of Binance. Then their members of staff were arrested. Then we hired case of people asking for money. In fact, till date, we've not even been able to investigate how did that one jailbreak from finance, the other executive of finance that did run away from jail, how did he leave? Was he in connivance? So, I mean, there are many factors. So I think it's not good just to dismiss things like that. I think it's also good to investigate what probably went wrong.
All right, moving on to another story, still looking at fraud. Today, Hadi Sirika and his daughter will be charged with about 2.7 billion naira fraud. This is on Nigerian Air. Barring any last-minute changes, the EFCC will today arraign the immediate past Minister of Aviation for an alleged 2.7 billion naira fraud in connection with the botched Nigerian Air project. Monies went into that project. I do not know what we can do to recover the monies that went into that project. First of all, the launching of the logo, there are so many issues surrounding that particular project. So he'll be arraigned on 6 counts alongside his daughter, even though we're not sure what role she has to play in all of this. While with your daughter, your brother, I remember talking about a story, I think it was sometime 2 weeks ago, where his brother was also fingered in some issue of fraud, financial fraud, still connected with the Ministry of Aviation as well.
I mean, the FCC has their charge sheet against him and their proxy companies that they used to run the deal.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Yeah. So if he's found guilty, he should exhaust everything in court. But I think most importantly, I think we all remember how shameful that case of Nigerian Air was. How a national spectacle it was. And a lot of us did sound off on it. So we're beginning to see the results of that now. And I think we should be careful as a country, when it comes to people with outlandish projects that we know is not based on anything. I mean, there are many backstories to that, what really happened with Nigerian Air. But let's have the Sirika have his time in court. I can't say much because the case is already in court.
Yes.
Really.
Yeah. All right. So this issue of politicians, not just politicians, public officers, right, having one issue of fraud, especially in relation with their family members in government. This issue of nepotism, putting family members in places where they do not deserve to be in, places that they do not have the capacity to work in, and then going ahead to do some fraudulent deals because you are trying to enrich your family members. I don't know what can be done about it, but it seems like a very, very prevalent issue, especially in our civil service.
We'll be able to build a culture that supports it. We build a culture that supports it, then it becomes easy. That's why you can funnel money through boxes and things like that. So to build a culture. So the question is, how do we break those cultures? How do we make it difficult for a minister to sit over funds and get his way without anybody challenging him? I think this is the question we should ask. How can we bolster our contract bidding process? Why must somebody have complete oversight over a contract and be able to give it to anybody he wants? And that's why you see we're also asking due questions about this postal route. Why was he given to one company? What was the competitive bidding process? So these are the questions we keep asking. So that someday in the future we don't go through the rigmarole again.
All right. Jimo Ibrahim, the Ondo senator representing the South Senatorial District, he has asked the president to dissolve his cabinet immediately. He said that the ministers are too cold, that he has to come up with knowledgeable people. He said that the ministers do not even fall in the country's grade A and are not even the best for Nigeria's growth, considering the economic situation of the country. And he said that some of the ministers have been accused of corruption. Those ministers should be dropped as well. And he said that if you fail to do that, you'll be carrying their burdens, and that will be terrible for our country. What's your take on this statement?
I think the indictment by an APC senator on an APC administration speaks volumes. President Tinubu promised us that there were going to be constant review As regards performance of the minister, we've not heard anything. The question is, even him, he's not been around for like a week. So it's just a reflection of what the government is like today. Everything backward, high inflation, challenges at the CBN, state of the currency. Nigeria just feels like it's running 2 steps forward, 3 steps backwards. So we need to be able to ask questions from this administration. I think the minister is only as good as what the direction from the president is. So ministers pretty much are those that would implement the direct government. So what's the president's vision for his administration? Because it looks as though we don't have a clear vision of where we're going, and that's why you see we keep having the challenges back and forth. It looks as though we are just feeling our way in the dark as a country. So I think that indictment on the cabinet and indictment on the president himself.
All right. Moving on to another story here, we're talking about the cybersecurity deal. The House of Representatives, the Speaker of the House, Tajuddin Abbas, he stepped down the motion to allow the leadership of the House to deliberate on how best to address the situation. He stepped down the motion, calling for the suspension of the cybersecurity levy, which, it has elicited negative reactions from a lot of Nigerians. But, he's a lot of argument about the NSA being a political office and has no mandate to manage, things like this. There's been a lot of conversations, especially as regards the legitimacy of the cybersecurity levy. Some people are saying that it has, it's been made to line other people's pockets. Some people are also saying, I saw in the news yesterday that someone said the president or Nigeria, quote unquote, was blackmailed into passing that particular policy. So there's been a lot of issues concerning this particular levy. But what's your take on this?
I think the House too should look into that levy because it's going to cause a lot of pain for Nigerians that are just barely scraping by. You want to tax them even more. But the question is, didn't the House also see all of this possibility and think of this scenario before they pass those levies into law in the first place? I think we should look at these matters critically.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Rufai, for your time this morning. Absolutely appreciate it.
Yes, let's hear it.
All right. Okay, to you listening, you have the opportunity to call and give your voice. Let your voice be heard in this conversation. 0700 010 961 961. 0700 010 961 961 on WhatsApp as well. You can leave a comment on our YouTube page, Voice of the People Abuja. Voice of the People Abuja. You can join us live on YouTube, Voice of the People Abuja, and drop a comment or two as you so wish. All right, we'll take a break and pay some bills. When we come back, we'll be talking with Mr. Larry Oguego. So make sure that you keep it locked right here. You're welcome back. This is still the front page review on Voice of the People 96.1 FM. And we are talking headlines this morning. We've checked out Kaduna State relocating 359 schools, merging them with other schools as well to prevent kidnappings, insecurity, banditry, and other related crimes in the state. So the governor of Kaduna State, Ubasani, is, merging 359 schools to merge them with other schools that are in safe places. We also have the CEO of Binance alleging a bribery demand made by officials, $150 million in cryptocurrency. On behalf of officials, pardon me. The Binance CEO, Richard Teng, has accused unidentified Nigerian individuals of acting on behalf of Nigerian officials to demand $150 million in cryptocurrency to resolve the tax evasion and money laundering case against the company and its officials. A lot of people have said, well, this doesn't sound far-fetched from what is a Nigerian reality. Mr. Larry, good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Jesse. So how's it going?
It is going well. We are seeing issues here and there, the basketballs here and there. Well, what is your take on this allegation made by the CEO of Binance?
It deserves to be investigated, and considering that conversations leave footsteps these days, one way or the other. I think it should be investigated. It shouldn't be dismissed because these things happen in Nigeria. I mean, there's a whole lot of corruption, and we can't just pretend it didn't happen. The proper thing to do is not to just issue a rebuttal or a denial, but there is need to actually take steps to verify, ask questions. Who reached out to you? When? What was the means? Nigeria is such a country that people could have reached out to him, scammers, whoever, but it could also be interested parties in government. This is not beyond what happens in Nigeria. So we need to know who reached out to you, how did the person reach out to you, are there footprints or trails of the conversation, so that we will actually get to know if the person is in government, that if anybody did reach out to him, then the person should be, of course, dealt with according to law. But if the person is a fraudster, the person should also be dealt with. But if there was no reaching out, the world can be persuaded that indeed they're just flying a kite. So I think it deserves to be investigated.
We know the way investigations go in Nigeria. It's almost as if it's just face value. It's just said with the mouth, but no, there's no action corresponding that particular word. So even if we're saying investigate, will the powers that be or individuals who might actually be involved, will they let investigations come to fruition?
Well, that's part of the problem. Very often we behave in a way that encourages us to make assumptions. Because if the government doesn't take the investigation seriously, then people may be inclined to believe that maybe they don't want to open a can of worms or expose people who they may not want to expose. And I know that if they want to investigate, they will investigate. If the Nigerian authorities want to investigate a matter, they have the capacity. They do investigate successfully. It's when they don't have any reason or political way to investigate that things just hang and then fizzle out. So when such things happen, the citizens are likely to assume that some untouchable person was involved. So they have every reason to investigate so that we won't continue operating the realm of speculation. If they don't investigate, then some people will assume, and maybe rightfully so, that there's more to this than meets the eye. So there should be a serious investigation into the allegation.
All right. Moving on to this issue of Hadi Sirika, we know that the EFCC will be arraigning him, his daughter, and son-in-law, and other, individuals involved in this. They'll be arraigned in court today. Now, they've accused Sirika of conferring undue advantage on some entities between April 2022 and March 2023 in Abuja. They accused him of abusing his office by awarding contracts, consultancy 1.3 billion naira contract for the Nigerian air startup to a company that has Fatima Hadi Sirika, his daughter, and Jalal Sule Haman, his son-in-law, respectively. He awarded those contracts to them. I mean, this isn't the first time we've seen, either lawmakers, elected officials in office giving contracts to their friends and family members, or even to themselves, awarding the contracts to themselves, maybe by proxy or whatever. I don't know what we can do about things like that to stop, because yes, if this person actually followed the bidding process, if this person followed due process and eventually was deemed worthy to get that particular contract, right, there will be no problem. But when you see a situation where the process was breached, and then you now awarded a contract with undue advantage to people that are connected to you in one way or the other, that's where the problem is. I mean, we saw the allegations of the Lagos-Calabar Highway project in connection with the president and his son having relations with the contractor for that particular project. I mean, this is really a big issue in Nigeria, and it's something that we thought the president would come in to stop, but we're seeing that, we're seeing defense on the part of the presidency.
I think what we need to do is simple. We have to ensure that there will be consequences when anybody in office decides to confer upon himself or the relation undue advantage. Very stiff penalty. The reason these things happen repeatedly is because there are no consequences. It is not proper for people to actually breach our laws and get away with it. Sometimes with a slap on the wrist. We have a code of conduct for public officers in Nigeria, and it's a brilliant piece of legislation, the code of conduct for public officers. One of the things public officers must not do is to engage in conflict of interest. That's it. You need to know your boundaries. And this issue of public procurement procedure must be revisited. It should be taken seriously. There should be stiff penalty, both for the company that is being used to compromise, the individuals that own that company, and the public officers. And one of the things we are not doing enough, which is important, is that we should also punish the civil servants who facilitate this process. Civil servants in Nigeria are very corrupt, and I say it without any reservations, because they participate in the fraudulent activities. Yes, they do. I mean, Hadi Sirika couldn't have prepared all the documents and evaded all the processes from the office of the minister. It is civil servants that close their eyes to due process and facilitate this. So anytime a politician is going to court, they should also arraign all of the civil servants who cooperated and aided and abetted the process until we actually become serious about this. Because what happens is that when these politicians come and go, the civil servants will teach them how to do corruption all over and tell them that nothing will happen. When we begin to punish politicians alongside the civil servants that aid these processes, we'll probably see some reprieve. But what happens is that you just see the politicians maybe and their associates and the civil servants who actually are supposed to be our first bus stop in discouraging this thing. They will walk away free, and sometimes they even teach these men and women how to do corruption. So we need to take steps to protect our nation. Excuse me. Unfortunately, we are letting people go, and we can't stop this problem if it's so deep-seated that it's happening everywhere. You are talking about arraigning Hadi Sirika. Meanwhile, we have a similar situation with the coastal highway. Integrity demands that if you're in office, you wouldn't want your relation or friend to benefit unduly, unjustly because you are in office. And the least you can do to protect us is to have a rigorous process make sure there's a rigorous process for bidding for projects. I do not want to assume that being a friend or being known to a president or governor or minister should be a disadvantage or a curse. But the only way we can be persuaded that there was no hanky-panky is to ensure that there's a transparent, rigorous bidding process. So if the company emerges and we say, no, this person is your friend, you show us how this person won the bid. It's very simple. But when the bidding process is bypassed or manipulated, public officers and the civil servants who collaborate will be punished severely. If we don't do that, then we'll continue hemorrhaging, we'll continue bleeding as a nation. I want to do it like yesterday because we're losing trillions to this scam.
All right, moving on to another story. We have pro-Fubara lawmakers electing a factional speaker and others. So Victor Oko Jumbo has emerged as a factional speaker of the 10th River State House of Assembly, and he was elected on Wednesday at 10 a.m. during plenary in line with the standing order of the House. I mean, we saw 27 members of the House of Assembly porting from PDP to the APC, and we know what the Constitution says about that. Constitutionally, a member of the House of Assembly will vacate his seat in the House if being a person whose election to the House of Assembly was sponsored by a political party, and then he becomes a member of another political party before the expiration of the period for which that House was elected. Now, we know that there was no issue or there was no crisis in the PDP in Rivers State prior to the moving or porting of these 27 members to the APC. So we know that constitutionally, Fubara is backed constitutionally for saying that they are not recognized as lawmakers. So now we're seeing a dramatic turn of events, and we're just wondering what exactly will be befalling Rivers State. This has gone on for way too long, and we thought that the president would have at least prevailed upon the situation as a president of the country, not as a party man.
It's not going to end anytime soon. We are just back to where we started, precisely back to where we started. And I'm not surprised at all. I'm not surprised because we play politics with everything. It's obvious that the APC wants to reap where they didn't sow. And that is partly why this is happening. Because if Mr. President and his allies had the moral courage at the right time to tell Wike and the APC in Rivers State to back down and allow governance to happen, we won't be doing this macabre dance. That is why I really love Mr. Jew process, late President Yaradua. He wouldn't allow this kind of thing to happen under his watch. Unfortunately, it's happening, and we're encouraging it, maybe for political gain, but it's a road that leads nowhere. That's the truth. We are destroying a state. And we think that, it's Rivers State, that nothing will happen. But we are setting an example, we're setting precedent under this administration. So you are going to have more people who will wield a big stick if they are close to Mr. President and want to disrupt leadership and governance in a state, maybe because his boy is not doing what he expected. I don't think it's good for our politics, for the optics for this nation. And one would expect, I mentioned it earlier, that the elders of Rivers State should prevail on the parties to do the needful. And if they refuse to do the needful, the matter should be left to the court. I do not trust our politicians to mediate in a matter where they can benefit. That's the plain truth. I don't want to pretend about it. I do not trust our politicians, whatever office they may hold, to mediate with integrity. Maybe Yarada would have done that, but not the crop of politicians we have now. So I think it's important that we just call a spade a spade. Men and women of goodwill in Rivers State and beyond should prevail on the former governor of Rivers State, especially, to find a way to just understand that he's not the governor anymore. And even if he facilitated the election of Bara, he should allow him to be the governor. That's the crux of this matter. We are pretending that that's not the problem, but that's the problem. I think men and women of goodwill should find a way to explain to this Oga that, Oga, you've done your bit. Can some other person please try? because no matter how you do this thing, you can't have that much influence forever. I mean, like somebody said the other day, it's turn by turn. My friend said it's like a standing fan. It will blow you, then it will rotate and blow Larry, and then rotate again and blow Rufai and rotate. I mean, you can't go and hold that fan to blow under you. That's the essence of democracy. That's the beauty of democracy. People choose their leaders, and then you allow them to lead. And if you facilitated his being chosen, then let him lead. I think the people of Rivers State should become more serious about stopping this dance of the forest. It's not getting us anywhere, and it's embarrassing to all of us as Democrats. All of us, not just people of Rivers State. Every responsible Nigerian is embarrassed, and people of Rivers are suffering because rather than focus on governance, they are spending their time day and night scheming. Okay, somebody planned that there's going to be a fractional speaker now. Somebody planned that somebody is going to announce that they should commence impeachment proceedings. All these things are waste of time and public funds. It's uncalled for. Something should give. We can't continue like this in Rivers State. And I don't want the court to aggravate a bad situation because very soon people go to court to start shopping for injunctions. I have conflicting injunctions and judgments there and there. Courts should be responsible in this matter. So we dispense with it as fast as possible so that Rivers State can go back to normal. That's the least we can ask for.
All right. Moving on to the issue of VAT, we are seeing that according to Section 40 of the VAT Act, the federal government gets 15% of the tax revenue, and states share 50%, local governments share the balance of 35%. But right now they're proposing the federal government gets 10 and the states will share the remaining 90, which they will then go ahead to share with their local government. But ultimately, they're proposing the committee, that's the Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms, saying that there's a need to increase VAT rates. At the moment, it's 7.5. We don't know what is going to be increased to. But aren't Nigerians facing enough? We're already dealing with the cybersecurity levy. We've not even finished drinking water and dropping cup. You're talking about an increase in VAT rates as well.
VAT was increased not too long ago. I don't understand why anybody should be talking of increasing VAT. And I don't trust the state governments to share anything with local governments. Already they are practically strangulating the local government areas by collecting all their money under the so-called joint state account. So I think we need to actually ensure that the local governments are autonomous, that they have their financial autonomy, and the money that is due them should go straight to the local government accounts, and that will enable us have serious-minded people vie for the position of local government chairman. We should also rescue local government from these elections that are conducted by state electoral commissions. They are just a joke because everywhere, any state that conducts the election, we know the local government, every local government, they don't even leave one or two for people to say, oh, that at least it was fair. No, they collect everything, and most of the opposition parties will not participate. So we need to take a hard look at local government structure if we are looking at VAT. I don't trust states to share the 90% with anybody, and I don't think we should be talking about increasing VAT. We are talking about the cyber tax, as it were, because that's what it is, a tax, and then you're talking of that. So the only thing this government appears to know how to do is to collect money from us. And the truth is that, assuming we can see rapid changes as we put up with this pain, the changes to assuage the pain. I mean, if we notice that, because we are making this sacrifice, I can now travel faster and better from Abuja to Lokoja and then on to Benin. I can go to school and not be afraid that I'll be kidnapped. I can do all things that I should do as a citizen. Then I may not complain too much. It means I'm paying a price for good governance. But when I pay all of these prices, that is, I make all the sacrifice, and it's either the way it was or it's getting worse. then I don't know where I'm supposed to find the courage to continue to bear the punishment, because it's not sacrifice anymore, it's just sheer punishment. So we shouldn't be talking about increasing VAT at this time. I've said before that this government appears to lack emotional intelligence. They need to know that even if you want to do something, the timing should also be important. You don't just do things. You have to check, is this the appropriate time to do this? And this is not the appropriate time to introduce yet another tax. And I don't think we should continue to allow the state governments to superintend the finances of local government. It's a disaster. That is why people are leaving the rural areas, because there's no presence of government in our rural area.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Larry, for your thoughts on the headlines this morning. Absolutely appreciate.
Yeah, it's my pleasure, and I hope that the people are listening. I hope that those who claim to be leading us are listening. I say they claim because they're not really providing quality leadership. I hope they listen to the voice of the people, because that's the simplest way for them to get feedback, and this feedback will enable them make better policies and better choices, so that maybe after some time we'll have something good to talk about. It's painful to me that every time we do the analysis, 90% or more of what we discuss is always a positive, negative outcome. Negative outcome. It looks as if that one is a perennial critic, but that's not the case. The problem is you can't go and praise a person just so that to look as if sometimes you praise someone. It's sad that what we seem to have is what happens in some examinations where you have mass failure. So when all the students fail, you don't know, you feel bad as a teacher that I taught them, but they all failed. So you have to just call it straight, they all failed. And that's what's happening to the political leadership in Nigeria. Everywhere you turn, you see failure of leadership. I hope that very soon we'll get pockets of brilliance, and then maybe as we proceed, we get things to be happy about, to praise government about, to applaud them and say, oh, you did this, where you did that, where you responded to the voice of the people here and there. We hope that day will come, and hope it will come soon. Thanks to the voice of the people. Keep talking to them, keep enlightening the people and the government about the responsibility of political leadership. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and have yourself a wonderful Thursday.
You too.
To you listening, thank you so much for being a part of our show up until now. We have the last episode of the week coming up tomorrow. Make sure that you keep it locked right here on VOP 96.1 FM. But at 8:15, we'll be having the Trading Post. Of course, you want to stick around for that particular conversation right here on VOP 96.1 FM. My name is Gesire Agua. Good morning.